Hello world of YouTube and welcome to my Kanye West discography. Yes, it is time. It is time for me to discuss Mr. West's music. If you don't know why I'm doing this, it's because I recently reached 500 subscribers on my YouTube channel and I told my subscribers I was going to challenge myself. I was going to talk about an artist whose music I'm not really that much of a fan of. Yes, I don't really like Kanye West. Before I talk about what I don't like about his albums, or even give praise to some of his albums, I want to tell you why I don't like Kanye West's music as a whole. And this may, to Kanye fans, give you a bit of insight as to why I don't like his music as a whole. I feel like his writing isn't as great as everyone thinks it is. I feel like really his biggest strength is only his production, and even that gets mediocre at some points throughout his career. I feel like his motive behind his music, which he's talked about on record, is a philosophy that I only feel works if you have a tremendous amount of talent. And as a rapper, as a writer, as an MC, he does not have that level of talent to me. I feel like his writing can be alright. It can shine, but a majority of the time it is mediocre. I feel like, and this may think, well, you're not saying his music is bad. There are moments where it's bad, but as a whole, I feel like he's mostly a mediocre rapper that people hold to a higher caliber than I feel should be. And I had this conversation with Austin, my friend Austin. Some of you know him. He used to talk about music on the internet. We had this long, in-depth discussion as to why Kanye is a relevant artist, and I feel like as an artist, he's only relevant because he experiments. And while I praise that, he doesn't change much about his writing, which is the biggest problem. I feel like, and I'll talk about this when I review albums like 00's, but I feel like it's a problem that he only changes one thing and he doesn't quite grasp how to handle it well and refuses to change in another aspect. And I'm not saying he has to change to please me, but I'm saying that's why I don't like Kanye. But anyway, this is part one, the 2000s, where I'm going to talk about his albums. College Dropout through 808s and Heartbreak. It's going to be College Dropout, Late Registration, Graduation, and 808s. If you'd like to skip ahead to part 2, where I talk about his albums, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, the collab album he did with Jay-Z, Watch the Throne, the collab album he did with his label, Good Music, Cruel Summer, and 00's, it is linked in the description. It's part 2. Without further ado, if you don't know, well, before I get into that, if you don't know who Kanye is, if you're one of those people who doesn't know who Kanye is, he's an MC, he's a producer turned MC, and he is big in the music industry. He's a notable icon. A lot of people love Kanye's music, and yeah, that's really it. Now let's get into it. Let's dive into his discography. And the first album he released is called College Dropout, which was released in 2004, and this record is okay. It's got more positives and negatives, but not a whole lot. This album's biggest strength is its production. Kanye uses its very soul-inspired beats for a lot of these tracks, and I feel like they work in a lot of regards. I'll Fly Away being just a straight-up soulful interlude. There's a lot of this record that has this very soulful approach to the production. I feel like it works, like on Spaceship, where he's talking about not wanting to work for the man, being something better, sick of working for these dickhead bosses. Spaceship has the soul production that works for it. Jesus Walks being Kanye talking about, I can make a song about Jesus and have it sell, and it did. It's helped by this very Call to Arms style production, but it still has this soulful undertones to it. And tracks like Family Business and Last Call, wanted to be wholesome tracks, kind of talking about how he's coming up, are helped by the soulful production. And those are really the best tracks on the record. The worst tracks would probably be tracks like The New Workout Plan, or Slow Jams, or School Spirit, which that whole School Spirit to Little Jimmy skit sucked. I'm going to be blunt, I don't like those at all, but I'll get to that in a minute. New Workout Plan being just a bad summer jam, talking about ladies, not good. Slow Jams being this kind of, it's a slow jam, but they're rapping faster. Well, Kanye is rapping somewhat fast, and then he gets Twista on it, being sensual, but spitting fast. It's whatever. And School Spirit through Lil Jimmy, that whole section of the album is kind of what the album was building up to, because the album's called College Dropout, and those songs slash skits make fun of the entire college experience in a very unfunny way. I wasn't amused by any of that. I get it, what he was trying to make funny. It just didn't land for me. Ha ha, college is a waste of money. All you'll have is a piece of paper. Ah ha ha, you won't get a job because the economy is crap. Or the hiring system, the job system in America sucks. I disagree, and I don't think it's funny that Kanye is satirizing it in a very unfunny way and dragging a joke and nailing it down hard. It just doesn't work. I feel like he could use his talents elsewhere. It just doesn't work. And another big problem with this album is that some of the tracks are just too goddamn long. Workout Plan being one of them. That track is 2 minutes, too goddamn long. It just lingers and lingers and fucking lingers. And it's boring. Last Call being the other song that just refuses to end. And it's not like Kanye's trying to be interesting. He's just talking over the production for like the last 3 minutes of Last Call, telling a story that he pretty much already did on the song itself. So it was dull, and it was boring, and it wasn't entertaining. And he has a line in Last Call that epitomizes why I don't like Kanye's music. And that line is, use my arrogance as the steam to power my dreams. I feel like you can only have arrogance if you're that good at what you do. And I feel like as a producer, Kanye can't have arrogance. He's a great producer. I feel like that's where his biggest strength lies. That's the best thing about all of his releases. Kanye's not that good of a rapper, if you ask me. I mean, he has some good lines, even throughout this record. Some clever wordplay, especially All Falls Down, and even Spaceship. He has some clever words, and 2 words, some clever wordplay on tracks like this and throughout his discography, but it's not to the point where you can use that as what powers your excellence. I feel like it only works if you have skill in that department. If you just made beats, sure, but that's not all hip-hop is. Hip-hop is not just how good your beats are. A lot of people may view it as that. I'm not one of those guys. You have to be at least good, better than good, to be arrogant in that department to me, and he's not. And I think that's, again, the biggest problem I have with Kanye's music is he thinks he's better than I think he is. So that's why he doesn't get the GOAT from me, because, yeah. But anyway, this record is okay. I know I crapped on it a lot, but I feel like it's okay. The production's really good. Kanye, when he's good on this record, he actually is pretty great. Again, Jesus Walks, Spaceship, even 2 Words is a pretty good track, and Breathe In, Breathe Out, because he has his guests utilized well, even if they're not in the way you would think on this record as well. Like Mos Def and Freeway and 2 Words. I think it's weird that he has Talib Kweli and Common on a track about weed or in drugs, but I think that was kind of the point, and I feel like it does work, because I like Talib Kweli and Common, and I think they work well on that track. But yeah, overall, I think this record is okay. I think it's not great. I don't think it's the best from that year or of the genre or the best debut of an artist, but I think it's okay. My favorite song, probably 2 Words. Let's talk about the record I think is his best, shall we? And the next album he released is called Late Registration, which came out in 2005, and after having a year between this and College Dropout, it's no surprise that there are some sonic elements shared with College Dropout. It still has the very soulful approach. The skit is a continuation from the skit on College Dropout. He even references going back to college on Hey Mama, and there's a lot of that shining over to this, but I don't think it's bad, because he does drop a lot of the comedy and poor satirization from College Dropout. There's still some here in the skits, but for the most part, that's about as far as it goes. This is probably the best Kanye record, in my opinion. and mostly because he dropped a lot of the mediocrity of College Dropout. There is still some of it here, but as a whole, Kanye sounds better. He sounds like he's more into what he's spitting about. He's actually pretty clever on some tracks like Gold Digger, and he's his most sincere on tracks like Roses and Hey Mama, and Crack Music even at some points. I mean, there's a lot more positives going to this than on College Dropout. The production's a lot better. It's amped up more. His features are better. Like Nas on We Major. Common gets his own song, which is great. I mean, I like Common, and he pretty much gets his own track on My Way Home, so that's awesome. And he even expands on the production a bit. It's not just a carryover from College Dropout. There is some funk thrown in there on some tracks, and there's also some hints towards what Graduation does production-wise on tracks like Bring Me Down, and even on the Diamonds from Sierra Leone remix. There's just a lot going for this record that I think is good. I feel like there is some mediocrity still in there, but overall it works. It's a much better record. Not all of his features are great. I feel like Lupe is meh. I like Lupe, but I feel like he's meh. Brandy is whatever. Brandy, he could have used a better singer, but Brandy's whatever. And the Paul Wall verse, I mean, it works, but it's Paul Wall. I mean, Paul Wall's okay, and he works on the track Drive Slow, but again, meh. But overall, this record's better. It's a step up. I think that it's paced okay. I feel like it's a great step up. Even though some of the tracks are long, they're still interesting. There's very few that drag on like from College Dropout. I feel like overall, this record overall is much better. Pretty much it. I don't have a whole lot to say. Yeah. My favorite track is probably Roses. Roses is a really good song. I like its very minimalistic styled beat. And it works. It works really well. With the story he's trying to tell about his grandmother. It's actually a pretty good song. Yeah. Let's talk about Kanye being poppy, shall we? The next record he released is called Graduation, which was released back in 2007, and this production-wise is like a step sideways and down. It's very pop rap oriented. There's still some samples that reflect the style that he had on Late Registration and College Dropout, but they are more sample based and there are electronics kind of seeping underneath that. And there's just flat out electronic driven tracks like Stronger. But it just seems more straightforward production wise, and I feel like that is kind of a step down. He was doing something good on the first two records, and it's mediocre on this, and that's not helped by the fact that Kanye sounds kind of mediocre on this as well. A lot of the tracks on here are okay, but they're not great. Like, I don't know, his rhyming seems kind of dumbed down on this. Some of the rhyme, and I've never thought he was that intellectual of a rapper either, so he's just more mediocre than usual on this. I mean, there's just lines littered throughout this thing that are just kind of like, what? I'm fly like Malcolm X, buy any jeans necessary. Most of the second verse of Stronger. The entirety of Drunken Hot Girls. This record is just meh. His features aren't as great. Him himself isn't really that good. And as a whole, the record just feels middle of the road to me. There's not really much I can say that I hate about it, but there isn't really anything I like about it either. It's just kind of inoffensively mediocre. And this isn't the only time Kanye does this in his career, but it is the first time, so I guess that in itself is a disappointment. He has his brag raps. Really, the only track where he tries the most at doing something with thought is I Wonder. And while that track is okay, I've heard its sample used better, and it's overall just a okay album. Yeah. That's about it. My favorite track is probably Everything I Am because the beat's really good. And it's another one of those moments where Kanye is okay. Yeah. Let's talk about one of Kanye's most polarizing albums, shall we? Now, the next album of his that he released was called 808s and Heartbreak, and that was released back in 2008. And this is the last album I'm going to talk about in this part, and this album isn't good. I am one of those 808s and Heartbreak Haters, as Kanye said in a verse somewhere. I just don't like what this album's going for. I get that it was written in like a bad mindset, like Kanye was very sad and down and distraught and everything, but he doesn't do it well. He just comes off as very whiny, and the over excessive use of autotune doesn't help. Whining over autotune is not a good thing. The beats are very poorly constructed. The thing that he started here, I feel like he started here, and has continued to use throughout his career, doesn't work either. The very overcompressed boost where he sounds like this and it's very in your face doesn't work. Just doesn't work at all. I feel like overall he's trying to be poppy and it just doesn't work. Like the poppy with very depressing undertones doesn't work. It just comes off as whiny and just bad. Yeah, the choruses aren't really good. Just overall, this isn't. And if you're trying to make a pop album and open with a 6-minute boring ass track, like Say You Will, you're dooming yourself from the start. Kanye's just unclever, not good, and just the bad. I really don't like this thing at all. I guess its best attributes would be that it's not very long and that some of the beats are okay. Some of the electronic beats are okay at best. But overall, this album is just... yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. It's just not a good record. Kanye sounds extremely whiny, and it doesn't work. Yeah, if I were to have a favorite track, RoboCop's Beat. RoboCop's Beat is my favorite song on this record. RoboCop's Beat is good. The song itself isn't. RoboCop's Beat is. But that's going to conclude part 1 of my Kanye West discography review. If you want to check out part 2, it is again linked below. If you're here from part 2, hopefully you enjoyed it. But either way, I've been Viralrak. You guys have a good day, situations, and I'll see you another day.